What is up, everybody? Welcome to episode 37 of the Magnificent 21. I am Delthius. How's it going, everybody? I am doing well. Picked up old Baldur's Gate 3 early access. Me and the wife have been playing that co-op, just kind of moseying through and having a lot of fun so far. It's a good game. I was a big fan of Larian Studios and the Divinity games. It definitely feels more like Divinity Original Sin 3 to me than Baldur's Gate 3, but that's not a bad thing in a way. Like, I'm 31, so I grew up in the late 90s playing Baldur's Gate, the early 2000s playing Baldur's Gate 2, and I'm excited for it, man. Baldur's Gate was probably my first introduction to, like, high fantasy settings, you know? So I'm really hyped for it. I think as we get a little bit further, we've just been kind of taking our time with it, but I'm excited to see all the little Easter eggs and references to the old games and stuff. Maybe there'll be a statue of Minsk and Boo or something. That'd be pretty cool. But we are getting to the twilight here of the Magnificent 21. We're almost at the point now where we're going to enter the semifinals, and let's take a quick look at let me try that again. Let's take a quick look at how all the teams are doing here. So this graph is a little bit skewed to show the differential between the teams here. And it looks like right now Badgers pretty much got first place down. I mean, I don't know the math well enough, but I don't think anybody can really make enough points at this phase of the game. I think Gentleman actually updated this right after last episode. But right now the fight is really for third place, in my opinion. I think we're going to be in that situation where semifinals happen between second place and third place. It looks like the Boars are doing pretty well in second place. Maybe Fox or Owl can get over that hump when the rest of the results come in. But in my opinion, at this phase, we're really looking at who is going to nail in that third place position between really any of these teams here to come up against Boars in the semifinal. And obviously I am rooting for the Fox. I am indeed part of Team Fox, and we've actually gotten actually all the replays tonight are going to be with Fox in them, so I'm pretty hyped. I think actually too soon to tell. There are definitely other games that are still going on, but I mean we're very, very close. You know, we're basically, after tonight, gentlemen, should have enough information to kind of figure out what the places are for the teams, if not very, very soon. The deadline, of course, for Week 4, I believe, is Sunday, so if you haven't played your matches yet, please get those underway here shortly. And the semifinals and finals format is really cool. It's like a best-of-21 split between kind of the low Bs and the high end of each of the teams, you know, splitting off to do 1v1 matches and then some 2v2s as well, so that's going to be a lot of fun. And I think we're about ready to go. We've got a lot of content to get through here tonight. So, without any further ado, let us hop into game number 1 here, and let's get her going. Alright, spawning in the bottom left, we've got Boomer, representing the Woofs, coming in to attack his opponent. On the right side, representing the Foxes, the Childs. Alright, this week we've got no moles and no falcons allowed. So both decks are respecting that. And the falcon ban is really interesting, in my opinion. It's kind of a backbone of a lot of compositions to start that transition into the late game. I'm really interested to see how players respond to that this week. You know, maybe we'll see a lot of chameleons. I think chameleons do kind of scale a bit better. But another thing too is falcons, in a way, in my opinion, could kind of take the role of the snake, as in your like tier 3 sniper, you know. So we're definitely probably going to see some more snakes this time around, and snakes have been pretty popular in general. They're just a well-rounded unit in this meta. But we do see the Child with those snakes, and Boomer without, and Child actually with the pigeons as well. Pigeons obviously work nicely with the skunks, and they help deal with when your opponent does have those snakes. So nothing crazy here in the early game. This map is a little bit unfortunate for Boomer. It's going to be pretty rough for him to expand. I mean, the 6 o'clock is not horrible. He does have an access point to leave the main base and get down here to this natural, but it is a little more spread out than you'd like to be. Meanwhile, the child, pretty happy with this spawn, I'd imagine. You know, you got a nice natural base right here. There's only one entrance into both your main and your natural, which is going to be rough for Boomer because he does have those lizards. You know, lizards really want to find those flank attack options, try to get in, get some damage done. And so far, nothing crazy yet, actually, as I say that, the child considering going for double tier 2. But no, the child's actually kind of playing a little bit more of an aggressive opening. He did already scout the gristmill of his opponent, but he doesn't really all in on this strategy. He does go ahead and get his own second mill going. Gonna come down here and scout, see what Boomer's committed. He's gonna show just a single farm. Nice scout from the child. He's gonna get in and see everything there. So realistically, we're in pretty even positions. I kind of do like this. Well, I was gonna say I like this slightly better for Boomer because he did get that farm going a bit earlier, but it really shouldn't matter. I mean, the child's farm wasn't that far behind. The child is gonna enjoy a couple moments of having additional tier 2, but this map is so large, by the time the child's push actually gets across this terrain, you know, Boomer's gonna have his tier 2 ready to roll. And here he comes. The child is not messing around. Boomer's actually committing to a few extra farms here. That could be bad news, but he does have lizards, which can do nicely against the skunks. Nice target fire there from Boomer, but good response by the child to pull that skunk back at 1 HP, and that attack goes very nicely for the child. He even gets that chameleon of his opponents, and he's going to come in here and get some real damage. The skunk, he's got to be careful with. He's actually got an access point on the back end, but yeah, that is going to go down. However, he does pick up another chameleon, so all in all, this has been a very successful push here for the child. Knocking out a pig, knocking out a Warren, trading 2 for 1 on the tier 2, and he's not done yet. He's going to come in and just try to end this game right here, right now. If he manages to get this second base, it's going to be really difficult for Boomer to come back. And, you know, maybe one thing that could help Boomer is if the child overextends and just loses too much, and Boomer can counterattack and kind of end the game before the economic differential really matters. But, you know, I think the child gets away with it, and the child did float a lot of money during that attack, comes home, builds a bunch of farms, just is going to get more and more ahead. You know, Boomer's kind of in desperation mode now. I think the best thing he can do is just try to maybe throw down more and more lizards and come in and cross his fingers and hope it works. In theory, he could try to take that second base again and get back into this macro game, but he's miles behind at this point. He'd really be relying on the child to just give him a ton of breathing room. And yeah, he is going to go ahead and try that approach. It is a little bit safer. But, you know, the child's 4 farms ahead at this point. He's going to get these chameleons up. And this attack from Boomer, no, he's just moving his army around. Yeah, trying to decide if he actually can come in and attack or not. I do like these cams from the child to deal with his opponent's cams and also the large amount of lizards here. Squizzard does do pretty nicely against Squirrel Skunk. More tier 2 on the way from Boomer, and so far, I mean, the child hasn't ended the game. Here's that 5-minute mark, which puts the child even more ahead economically. He's working on his third base, and the child just is trying to not take any risks, just really build up. But now that he's got his chameleons out, I'd really like to see a push from him here. You know, he's got the upper hand. You want to go ahead and end the game before Boomer gets an opportunity to get back into this. And here he comes. You know, really safe play from the child. I think you could argue that perhaps the more correct course of action after that successful attack would have been to just throw down a bunch of tier 1 and follow up with that way, but this is going to work here for the child. He just took the game a little bit safer. And really, that is just that. I think I'll go ahead and do a little bit of fast forwarding. Yeah, there we go. Boomer taps out. And the child putting a point on the board here. And this is a very important match for the Wolves. You know, they need to get some more points in order to try to secure at least that third place. You know, if the child ends up winning, that's great for the Fox, obviously. but it doesn't hinder the wolf. But at this point, I would argue that it actually does. You know, you need every little point you can get here. Let's get into match number 2. Spawning on the right side, we've got Boomer. And his opponent to the left, the Child. Okay, I don't remember if Boomer had balloons last time around, but it looks like the Child is opting to use the same deck here. Oh wait, the Child has Wolf. The Child should not have Wolf here. Uh-oh. Uh-oh, gentlemen. I don't know what you want to do about that. Is that a free loss? Do we just give the point to Boomer? Free loss confirmed, says the gentleman. Alright, the Child messing up here, forgetting the tournament rules. And I guess we give that one to Boomer. I hope that doesn't mess things up, like if it's a 3-0 or something. You gotta follow the event rules, guys. So we'll go ahead and give that point to Boomer and hop into game 3. Hopefully the Child has the Fox here. Hopefully Boomer won that game anyways, or else they might have to play the series again or something. Let's go into it. Alright, this time around, the correct tier 3 is picked by the Child up here at the top right. And in the bottom left, we've got Boomer, of course. Okay, and he's got Toads and Ferrets, so some modest changes in the deck here from the Child, and this might actually be a pretty decent Ferret map. You know, short rush distance is actually kind of good for Ferret, as weird as that sounds. You know, because you don't necessarily need to create all those defenses to have a nice spot for your Ferrets to run back to. You know, even if the Child just has some Warrens and like his main army here, and Boomer's got like one of these bases, he can poke in with the Ferrets and safely retreat back to his main, no problem. However, Boomer does still have that balloon, which is fantastic against both the Ferret and the Fox. Really, in general, the Child does not have a lot of units that can shoot up, which kind of makes sense. You know, he knows his opponent doesn't have Falcons or Owls, so really the only other unit is balloons, not counting pigeons. Ooh, the Child going for... actually, no, he's responding to the 6-farm double from Boomer here. I'm kind of hoping that Boomer actually did win that game. Otherwise, we're going to have an incomplete replay series here. Oh, and Boomer's attack is going to work. This is a really good map to try this thing on again because the short rush distance. And although the Child did respond, he didn't quite respond fast enough. And gets a little bit punished there. So nice pickup for Boomer. Going to give him a little bit of an early game edge. And all of those little edges definitely matter, especially when the rush distance is as short as it is on this map. Yeah, if the series ends up being incomplete, we'll leave it like that, because actually... So, if let's say the Child 3-0s, right? Then it didn't matter, if that makes sense. It only actually matters because he's defending, right? It only actually matters if Boomer wins, right? So if this series ended up being like 3-2 for the Child, then we've got a problem on our hands, because technically that game 2 should have gone to Boomer. That's the way I'm thinking about it anyways. But we will see. Hopefully, for the gentleman, a less of a headache, the Child does end up winning the series at least 3-1. Coming in here for an attack now is the Child. He's got some Chad Toads. They make some okay connections. Good job on the micro of these Toads. Doesn't necessarily want to kill the Warrens with them. Sometimes you are a little torn with the Toads, you know. Because they can crit down those Warrens really, really quickly. So a little bit of counter damage coming in from the Child. Boomer desperately trying to get up some skunks, but I don't know if he's going to have the time for it. I think maybe that tier 2 might be his doom here. skunks are almost out, but another warren drops. And if the child can just get a little bit more damage here, another warren, another pig, this might just snowball to a victory, regardless of the skunks. He has so much damage now. 2 warrens, 2 pigs, maybe even a 3rd warren. The child's gonna back up and re-rally. And let's see if Boomer can find a way to recover. Now, the skunks are pretty good in this position. I would actually like to see Boomer sprinkle in like just maybe 1 warren of lizards to try to connect with the 6 toads. Like, these toads are just going to be devastating. You know, the child's got so much squirrels, like he doesn't even really care. Yeah, these toads just come in, wipe everything out. But that is a lot of skunk gas. Pushing the child back for now. He really wants that kill on the skunk. Not going to commit to it, though. Just going to poke down on that warren. And that defense was okay from Boomer. He lost another warren, though, which is a really big problem. And he's floating a whole bunch of food in a time where he really cannot afford to float food. Every second matters. He really needs some more warrens down right here, right now. Yeah, just spam them down. And he's got to hope that maybe the child overcommits. But the problem here is, like, the child doesn't have any big, expensive Tier 2 units or anything like that to really lose and make this go sour. And almost any way you slice this cake, I mean, the child's going to trade well enough with his Tier 1, where his economic lead should make up for a differential. Well, I say that, but, you know, that was actually a pretty nice trade there for Boomer. Look at the army graph. I mean, I don't know if the child actually can afford to be that cost ineffective. The child's gonna take it back for a moment, sell off some of the toads, get the gristmill up and running. Boomer sees this, and Boomer's probably got enough here to hold for now, but his economy is just so low. He really, really needs to get that second base up and running, or just hard commit to try to end the game, maybe with some good skunk micro or something. And it looks like he's gonna opt for the latter here. Just gonna YOLO BOLO here and move on in. But again, I think the child's just so ahead economically. Yeah, 1 skunk going down already, another skunk falls as well. And I think that's about curtains for Boomer, unfortunately. He held his ground quite nicely in these last couple attacks, you know, being so far behind. You know, the problem is, things really do tend to snowball, you know, after that first attack where he just lost so much. And I think that was on the back of trying to get to Tier 2. And it really comes down to the size of the map, in my opinion. You know, short rush distances like this, I mean, taking a Tier 2 is actually kind of risky. And Boomer is going to tap. So the question is, was that a straight 3-0 for Child? Or did Boomer actually win that second game? No, I guess Boomer did win that second game. Because that seems to be another map. Let's just make sure. We can times 5 through this real quick. Just a nice little, I guess I could probably read the XML file. I know how to do certain things with the XML file. It's probably in there somewhere pretty quickly who wins. But I guess Boomer did manage to win this game. And I guess if the child didn't actually ever build the wolf, you know, maybe the gentleman could let it slide and we can just keep her going. Let's just find out real quick. Those of you just turning in, this match was considered null and void because the child did not pick the fox. And so it was an automatic win for Boomer. But yeah, I mean, it looked like Game 4 was an actual game. So Boomer must have ended up winning this anyways. Yeah, it looks like Boomer is starting to win. Yep, okay, cool. So that makes things pretty easy. The child never actually used that wolf, and the child ended up losing anyways, so. Timeline saved. Yeah. Alright, I'm glad you agree. Alright, no harm, no foul on that one. What's up, Viridian Games? Pickpocket, Wildkid, Raven Lee, good to see everybody. And everyone else who's just hanging out, lurking. Alright. Match number 4, let's get it. What does that remind me of? Timeline saved. What was that? Into the Breach? You ever play that, gentlemen? The game's actually really fun. Made by the same company that did Faster Than Light. I don't know if that was a reference. Maybe I'm reading into it pretty much, or too much rather. Timeline saved is pretty generic. Yeah, Into the Breach is really fun. But we are not playing Into the Breach, we were playing Tooth and Tail. And the child down here on the bottom's got those toads, got those ferrets again. Up top, Boomer rocking that barbed wire. You know what? Barbed wire is a little bit slept on. I mean, there's guys like Tiki Gray who are really, really good with it. But overall, I kind of feel like it's a bit underutilized, you know? I mean, it's 5 food, isn't it? It's either 5 or 10. I'm pretty sure it's 5. I mean, that's bananas. Midgar, what's up, man? We're still in the first match here. It's 1-2 in the favor of the child. Boomer is attacking in. He desperately needs points for Team Wolf here. We're actually pretty neck and neck at the end of this group phase, I guess you can say. The Badgers, #1. I don't think anyone's going to dethrone the Badgers for that first place. But second place is Boar, and they also have a pretty decent lead. However, third place really matters as well, and I think all the teams are still in the running for third place. I think Owl is a little bit of a Hail Mary to get there. Fox is in a good spot. So these matches are really important, man. Like, Boomer getting this win for Wolf would definitely be huge. And on the same time, you know, Child really needs to defend here for the Fox to keep our point differential where it is. And the Child's actually getting a little bit fresh, opening up with ferrets. This is a fun strategy. You can make it work with things like barbed wire or other defensive structures, or a lot of tier 1 to back this up. But Boomer's already working on the skunks, which are going to do nicely against that tier 1. I kind of like, you know, Squizzard with Ferret, because the Squizzard helps you deal with those skunks, which is kind of the worst case scenario with the Ferret, because, you know, the Ferret is generally speaking, a weaker direct engagement unit, so a lot of times you want to reinforce that Ferret push with just a lot of cheap tier 1, you know? And the Child's got both his ferrets up and doing a little bit of poking here. I think that trade was pretty even for the most part, but Boomer's already getting the snakes up and running. The snakes are fantastic to deal with the ferrets. You know, you get a tag on them, you slow them, you get that second tag, and I think that's about it, so. Second base already up and running for Boomer, which is going to put him in a fantastic spot if he can survive. But the Child is really all in on this one-base strategy here. He's going to rock and roll right into the main base, pick off a pig immediately, attack the main army. These toads crashing through. Both skunks go down. And this is a lot of damage here. Keep in mind, Boomer does have 2 additional farms, but he's lost 2 already, and I don't think he can afford to keep all this tier 2 alive. That snake getting doofed upon by the ferret shells really does not help his case. He really needed to keep that snake alive, and now I think he's just got to sell off one of his tier 2. I don't think he's in a position where he really can't afford both of them. If he does get all of that tier 2 up and running, that'd be great. But I mean, look at it, they're blocked in the red here. The snake is in production. But this is a large bite that Boomer is taking. I don't know if he can chew it, and it looks like he can't. The Child crushing through. Again, you know, really utilizing a lot of tier 1 to help these ferrets push forward. And these ferrets will be able to just shell a lot of damage uncontested from the back. But if Boomer can get those snake tags, yeah, really all it takes is 1 tag, because that'll slow him down. Both those ferrets super weak. They're both gonna die. It's exactly what Boomer needed. He did sell off the skunks. We lost another pig there on the second base too. Now this 5-minute mark, it's actually really important which one of these we're starting farms here. If Boomer only loses 2 farms there, yeah, okay, that's actually really, really good for Boomer. The two pigs that he lost happened to be starting pigs anyways, that farmed out at the 5-minute mark. So actually now Boomer's got an economic lead. That is so crazy how relevant that was, right? Because imagine if Boomer had 3 pigs right now instead of 5. The child is still committing to this aggression. He does have a single farm building on that second base here, but he wants to keep Boomer constantly on the defense, knocks out those snakes. He really just needs to keep the ferrets alive and trade his tier 1. Oh, and it looks like maybe this will be a victory for the child here. Yeah, I think Boomer is just too far behind at this point. He does get a single snake out. Well, the child doesn't have a whole lot either, but he's just got so many tier 1 warrants. He's going to be able to reinforce. I mean, the Boomer would have to do miracles with this snake here. You know, just get so much value. There is Road, which actually helps out the snake a lot because you got that extra movement speed. You can bob and weave in and out, get some snake tags, and once you tag something, they get slowed down, but Child's gonna pick that snake up, and I think that snake was really what was keeping Boomer in this game. He taps out, and the Child, with the successful defense for the Fox here. Good stuff for me. Nicely played by Boomer, though. Alright, we are gonna go, actually, I think, into Ziggy versus Floor next. Let me get this squared away real quickly, and then I am gonna take the briefest of breaks, grab a drink. Let me see, what is the weight? Floor weight 720. All right. A real brief break, guys. I'll be back in just a second. Don't go anywhere. Okay, sorry about that. I am back. And let's get her rolling into the next series here. Hopefully these players are on their right positions, and they are. Wonderful. Spawning in the bottom, we've got Mr. Ziggy, representing Team Fox, and his opponent up top, Fleur de Lis, representing the Badgers. Let me do a quick color adjustment. And I'm excited for these matches. Floor, in my opinion, is known a little bit for doing some quick tier 3 builds, which I always think are really cool. And let's see if he can pull it off this time around, or maybe I wouldn't be surprised if somewhere in the series we see him try to do like a one-base Badger. You know, I think in general, speaking from a metagame perspective, you know, the one-base tier 3 concept has been a bit dismantled, but it's definitely one of those things, you know, if you if you get caught off guard by it, it can really devastate the opponent. Yeah, lots of water on this map, kind of separating these two main bases. Both players probably pretty happy with their spawns. I like Fleur-de-Lis is better. I mean, he's just got this nice V of mills. You know, all pretty easily defendable. We do see Ziggy has a lizards. This could be a nice map for lizards. There's several different directions here and there you can try to backstab your opponent through. One thing that's a bit underutilized nowadays as well are the campfires, and the campfires do kind of favor players who have mobility with things like lizards. They're easier to defend, they're easier to take. I'm curious if we'll see that come up. We don't typically see cabins and campfires utilized a whole lot nowadays because the rate in which players get up to 2 and 3 bases, you know, cabins are much more relevant in one base games where having that one additional farm really makes a difference. Ziggy though gonna get that quick tier 2. And this map is so large and the terrain naturally defensive for both sides. This is definitely gearing up to a nice big fat macro game. Which is kind of cool because you can try to fake out your opponent, you know? I love to see players like kind of go against the wind on maps sometimes. You know, oh, it's a big map, so I can macro up and be safe, and then you just get all in. But as long as both sides are pretty on the up and up on their scouting, they should be fine in that regard. And to be honest, both sides being pretty conservative so far. You know, I really expected in this kind of map to see these second bases just get really saturated really fast, but you know, both players are taking it easy. You know, good scouting from both sides. Fleur getting a nice deep scout there. Mr. Ziggy also has a pretty good idea of what's going on. It's falling behind a bit on the tier 2 though, which is really important in games like this. You know, it becomes a tier 2 arms race a lot of the times, you know, in these big long macro style maps. You really want to try to get up to like 2 to 4 tier 2. We see Fleur-de-Lis already getting that second one almost finished. Meanwhile, Ziggy still has not started a second tier 2. There it is. He gets some snakes up and running. Oh, wait, yeah, I forgot the score. Thank you. It is 0-0. It is not 3-1. Otherwise, we wouldn't be watching. Okay. I'm curious, too, if Ziggy can actually pull off some, like, turret, some forward turret stuff. Like, it can work really well. Even a single turret, you know, he takes this campfire, builds a turret, like, right here. Even with or without the fox, and then if you can manage to get up to like 3 or 4 turrets, that could be really devastating to try to attack into, and your opponent doesn't have things like snakes or ferrets or owls to really chew through it cost effectively. But again, you know, really safe play on both sides, I want to say. Nobody is really putting the pedal to the metal on the farm count, and Ziggy is moving in. He's ready to roll. Fleur does have the defender's advantage here. Ziggy trying to delay the fight until this gristmill gets up. Or bait Fleur into attacking the gristmill a little bit. Here come all those lizards. The lizards can do okay to try to deal with the skunks, but it looks like Fleur is taking this fight. A lot of the units getting poisoned, though, gonna die on the back end. And Ziggy keeping most of his tier 2 alive. And keep in mind, Fleur has already gone up to 4 tier 2 Warrens. Now a little bit of Ziggy's tier 2 begins to fall, but Ziggy has a lot of tier 1 Warrens up and running, which allows him to quickly reinforce the front lines, especially with these lizards here. And this is going okay for Ziggy. I'm getting a little bit worried about some of his tier 2. They're getting pretty low, but he's going to push the issue. I think he's got the damage done. Yeah, I think he overextended in that last push. I think he was okay before that. But the army value tends to say he's still fine. So overall, successful attack there from Ziggy. I think Fleur held the first wave fairly nicely, but you could really see the difference between one player who has a lot of tier 1 Warrens versus the other one with a ton of tier 2, with how quickly, you know, even with that defender's advantage, Ziggy was able to have a much larger second wave hit the base. Alright, Ziggy looking for some more action here. Very smart to wait. It's so hard. I mean, as a lizard player, it's easy to just run in there with your lizards before the whole army gets there, but no. Ziggy takes his time, and he's going to move in again. And these snakes doing a good job getting that poison on the chameleons. One of them does fall. The other one actually lives. I thought for sure it would go down. And a very nice defense there for Floor. That was quite an ambitious attack from Ziggy. And I think it's really interesting because kind of the same thing happened last time, right? Except for this time around, Ziggy just didn't get those tier 2 kills. Like, Floor's army is better in the first attack, but worse in the follow-up attacks. I guess that difference is, this narrative I'm trying to spin is less and less correct, though, as the tier 1 numbers are starting to even out. Ziggy is trying to get into some more tier 2. Wants to throw down a defensive turret, but placed it just a little bit too far forward. And Ziggy is going to try to defend here. Floor's got a hell of an army, though. Is it going to be enough? So much skunk gas everywhere. It's kind of hard to tell what's going on, but that turret gets online. And Floor is going to run away for now. Ziggy going to try to catch some fledgling units on the retreat. And this is a nice game we got on our hands here. Those first bases are totally mined out. Second base is fully saturated. And let's see when the players decide for a third, or if they really just want to, you know, go all in, build a bunch of tier 1 and try to swing in. But so far, it feels still relatively even. You know, that follow-up push from Floor there, really keeping Ziggy in check. Neither side committing to a tier 3 just yet, which we're kind of at the phase of the game where players might consider it. You know, you've got a large enough army with your defender's advantage to kind of hang out and build that tier 3, but at the same time, I mean, you do need to get that third base going, right? So it's definitely better to get the third base going than commit to the tier 3, but Floor's got a lot of money here. Are we going to see a Badger? Oh, man, I got hyped. Oh, there it is. All right, the Badger gets thrown down. Ziggy really needs to scout that. Either needs to scout it or just turn on the aggression. And so far, he doesn't see it, and he really doesn't commit to this attack either. And if Floor just happens to blindside Ziggy with that Badger, I mean, that could be curtains. You know, the window that Ziggy can respond with his own Fox is starting to close. Like, if he threw it down in the next, like, 5 seconds or so, it would be out. But then again, Ziggy does have 4 snakes. You know, those 4 snakes can get the tags on the Badger. He doesn't necessarily need a Fox here. Going up to 6 snakes, yeah. Maybe Ziggy is... his star sense is tingling. And the additional snakes do make sense either way, because Floor is doing one or two things, right? He's either building a Badger, or he's building more tier 2. And in either situation, a few extra snakes are good. Oh, but Floor is so supply blocked. What is he going to commit to? He wants to get this Badger out. Oh, this hunger for the Badger here might be Floor's downfall. He's got 180... he's basically got 360 food wrapped up in that Badger, and he needs units right here, right now. Ziggy is also heavily supply blocked. He needs to go home and sell off some Warrens whenever he can, but he's got the tempo right now. He's trying to come in and just end the game, and it looks like he does. Point on the board for Ziggy. My heart goes out to Floor, man. I've lost so many games like that because I love playing with tier 3 units in general. I can't count the amount of matches I've lost because I'm like, all right, I can get a tier 3 at this point, and not having that 360 food on the table ends up sealing the deal. So, happens all the time. Let's hop into match number 2. Really close game, though. I'm very excited to see how this series plays out. Over in the bottom left, one map behind, we've got Delthius and his opponent. To the top right, fresh off a victory here, we've got Mr. Ziggy. And this map is a little bit interesting. I think I like it better for Ziggy. Definitely like it better for Ziggy upon closer examination, I suppose, because Floor does have a second base, which is nice, but taking a third for Floor is going to be a little bit difficult. And I'm curious how Ziggy plays this out. You know, because Ziggy's got this really safe second base he can just take down here. However, if he takes this as his second base, I mean, he just owns the entire map at that point. He really shuts Floor out from any of these expansion options. You know, maybe Floor can try to take some of these down here, but those are dangerously close to Ziggy's main. You know, Ziggy's really got 3 viable second base options in my opinion, so I'm curious which one he's going to decide to use. You know, this is the safest one. I think this is the riskiest one. High risk, high reward, and this is kind of in the middle. You know, I would actually not hate to see this one as the second base, because it's really not that risky. It's pretty close to the main still. It's easy to defend, and you get to keep this one in your back pocket for later. And this is one of those maps where Floor has got to get the lay of the land quickly, which he did. Very nice scouting from Floor from both sides. And you kind of got to realize, hey, you know, taking a third base is going to be a tall order for me. You know, it's not impossible. Maybe Floor actually does come up here and get this area later. Maybe reinforce it with a balloon or something. But if I'm Floor on this map, I'm thinking, okay, I've got to make a 2-base play. You know, maybe I take it easy, throw down a balloon, try to macro up my second base pretty quick, get up a Badger, and try to swing. You know, something like that. Meanwhile, Ziggy, you know, the world is his oyster here. He's got a lot of expansion possibilities. Ziggy's just got to hang out, play safe. And in theory, should just out-eco his opponent later. And Ziggy does opt for that safest gristmill on the map here for him. Second base up on the way for Floor as well. We got tier 2 from both sides, so in general, a pretty standard opening. Lots of tier 1, I guess, for this phase, you know. I think people typically get to, you know, second base tier 2 off like 2 or 3. Tier 1 rather than like 4 or 5, but there's nothing wrong with going up to 4 or 5. You know, what's really interesting about Tooth and Tail is there aren't really hard build orders. You know, you really... It's a game about scouting, right? Because in other RTS games like StarCraft, you know, you're playing with incomplete information. Sure, in Tooth and Tail it's the same way, but in Tooth and Tail you get free scouting, as long as you're on top of it. So, really, instead of like a hard build order, what you're typically trying to do is understand what your opponent's doing and stay one step ahead. Ziggy's moving in here. He's got the skunks up against the chameleons. These fights can go either way. Looks like the chameleon's actually slamming through here. Lots of pigeons. I think that was a bit of a mistake from Ziggy. You know, having 6 pigeons this early on in the game just feels like too many. So nice pickup there for Floor, but Ziggy is not out. You know, he's just got a little bit of a bloody nose here. And he's going to try to compensate with some additional farms with those snakes. Meanwhile, Floor getting that Badger out, man. Floor's like me. He likes to get that tier 3 out whenever he can. Ziggy does not scout it, but he realizes that Floor is on the way. He doesn't have a chance to really look around very thoroughly here. He needs to come home and defend. And some good pre-gas on those pigs, kind of softening up that bacon a little bit. But nice defense here from Ziggy. With the cams coming in, though, let's see what ends up happening. These snakes aren't quite ready, and Ziggy really needs to hold the door here. He can't let those chameleons get on top of that snake war, and if that goes down, that is huge, and it does go down. One snake ends up getting out of it. Maybe that's all he needs, but that's still a nice victory there for Floor. slowing down the tech progression. And it's actually even a bigger deal than it normally would be, because this Badger's on the way. I mean, this Badger's almost ready to roll. Floor doesn't have the pigeons yet to support it. He knows that the enemy's got snakes. He's just trying to build this balloon to dissuade Ziggy from attacking. You know, Ziggy thinks, alright, he's got a balloon up. I've got all the time. Oh, I love this from Floor, by the way, selling that balloon. That was very, very smart. Ziggy does end up seeing it anyways, but you know, you throw down the balloon, your opponent thinks, alright, they got a balloon, I don't want to attack in, and then you sell it, get your money back, and they still think you have a balloon, you know, until they follow up Scout. So I love little things like that. I think interactions like that are really what make Tooth and Tail stand out as a unique RTS, because we do get the 100% refund. And here's that Badger out of left field. Ziggy had no idea it was coming. Gets a couple poison stacks on it pretty quickly, and it's also walking through the skunk gas. It is getting very, very low. The Badger is going to go down doing next to nothing. Big victory here for Ziggy. He's going to push his luck and march across the map. Floor desperately selling off that Badger, floating a lot of money now because of it. Does not have a lot of tier 1 warrens though. Floor really just needs to slam down those squirrel warrens. Get whatever units here you can, but he does have enough to hold the front for the time being. And that was a big victory there for Ziggy, knocking out that Badger without it really doing anything at all while it was unscouted. Ooh, Floor's commander going down to that snake poison, always triggering when that happens. So many snakes here from Ziggy. Gonna march forward, but he doesn't have a lot of reinforcing units yet. He's a bit lax on the tier 1. He needs a little bit more beef here on the front for his armies. He doesn't have the pigeons though, and snakes surprisingly have a fairly large health pool, you know. So they're tankier than you might think they are. Again, Floor's commander going down though. That might be curtains, unfortunately. The Badger going down, the commander going down twice, losing his whole army. I just don't see Floor recovering from this position. Ziggy gonna jump right on in, say, I don't care about that balloon. He's got a lot of hurt units here, but they're all still alive. It doesn't matter if they're at 1 HP, they can still do full DPS. Floor desperately trying to hang on, trying to build whatever he can to just stop this attack, but Ziggy is starting to get the critical damage done. Knocking out the farms, knocking out the warrens. And if Ziggy manages to get this second base knocked out, which is gonna be close, but I think it lives, yeah. Ooh, maybe Ziggy's overextending a bit here. Ziggy does have the better economy. And we're having a bit of back and forth here, but in general, it's just favoring Ziggy. You know, he's taken some great engagements between that Badger skirmish and the 2 fights where Floor's commander died. And this is just going to compound. Floor should be tapping out any second. There it is. And we've got a 2-0 lead for Ziggy. Let's hop into match number 3. In the bottom left corner, looking for that 3-0 sweep. It's Mr. Ziggy. Or over on the right, can he come back and win 3 in a row? We got Floor Delthius. Floor changing up the deck composition pretty significantly here. You know, this cam turret actually can get a lot of work done. And this map is a little bit weird. You know, it's actually, I still kind of like it better for Ziggy. But in a way, it's relatively even. You know, both players have access to a second base. And there's this 6 o'clock or this 9 o'clock that both have a cabin and a gristmill. But the reason I like it better for Ziggy is he does have this double high ground here to help defend. And it's actually really awkward for Floor to directly attack into the main. Like, you naturally want to think he could do something like this, but he can't. You know, there is a ramp there. There is no ramp to this double high ground. He's got to walk all the way around this way to get to that second base. However, Floor does have lizards, and as he's scouting right now, there is this little back entry, and I'd love to see him leverage that into some serious lizard damage later on in the game. That would be really cool to see. Oh, Ziggy taking the 6 o'clock first. Very nice. This is risky, though, because it is closer to Floor's base, and it is a bit awkward for Ziggy to defend. But in some of that same logic I was talking about last time, if Ziggy does actually get this one up and rolling, you know, he's got this base for later when the game is a bit more clutch, and Floor already scouts this. And I like what Ziggy's doing in theory, but I'm really worried if it's gonna work. And Floor! Oh my god, Floor. 8 farm double into Badger. Let's go. Alright, man. I know I'm on Team Fox, but this game I'm on Team Floor. I was really thinking Floor would build up a bunch of lizards or something like that and try to take advantage of how spread out Ziggy is, you know. Move Ziggy down here to defend and then come up here with the lizards, you know, plays like that. Oh, is Ziggy gonna scout the Badger? He really needs to. Okay, he does. Alright, he sees the Badgers on the way, and he's got plenty of time. It takes 60 seconds to build that Snake Warren and the 2 snakes. Oh, is he gonna go for it? This is actually not the right move. You know, Floor does have the turrets. I think the correct move here is to just get up the snakes. But let's see, this could work out for Ziggy. Maybe if he tries to come up here, but I think once he sees the turrets, he's gonna know this isn't gonna work. Yeah, Floor even builds additional turrets. And now Ziggy's kind of in a rough spot here. You know, Floor can actually get some value out of this Badger. Do the 8 farm double into tier 3. Let's go. Let's see if Floor can make it work. This is a nice map to do that sort of thing onto, because it is really big and awkward. So it's hard to get in there quickly and punish it, especially when you have turrets to build as Floor did. So Floor now has that Badger, but he can't mess around, you know, really even stopping for the second that he did. In my opinion, it was really against him, because every second that passes is a second closer to these snakes being up for Ziggy. And now, by the time this Badger even gets here, Ziggy's got 2 snakes. And can Ziggy get those stacks onto the Badger? 1 stack so far. But there are pigeons here to help heal it up. The Badger loses the rev. But so far, this is actually really good for Ziggy. He's got a significant tech advantage. This Badger, you know, this quick Badger is kind of a timing attack, right? And Floor just did not get the damage done that he needed. And he's going to try again, but there's 4 snakes out now. And all Ziggy's got to do is get the target fire on that Badger for a split second, and that thing is going to go down. Yeah, 4. Oh, that is 1 super dead Badger, 8 stacks of poison. But Ziggy's got a lot of lizards left over. Or, I'm sorry, Floor does. Ziggy really sacrifices tier 2 to take out that Badger. And these lizards getting some damage done. But keep in mind, Ziggy also has the space down south. And the question is, was that enough damage, right? Like, Floor did a good job, and he's actually got a really good economy behind this. Yeah, I was gonna say, I'd like to see him sell the Badger off. I mean, Ziggy did hold, and Ziggy did kill that Badger, but Floor killed so much tier 2 in that attack. Alright, Floor moving in with some lizards. Lizards are pretty good against snakes and skunks here. But the cams on the front lines helping Ziggy out. Floor's got the significant economy lead. However, these tier 2 units getting a lot of work done. Ziggy is really blocked, though, on production, so it's going to be difficult to reinforce the armory bigger than what it is here now. But if that skunk stays alive, then I think he had a chance to actually push through. But the skunk does fall. This snake, I think, will be okay with all these pigeons supporting it. Ziggy's gonna keep the pressure on. He knows he needs to get some real damage here. He needs to ideally knock out this gristmill, which is what he's going for. But I think he would have been fine with a couple farm kills as well. And yeah, trying to commit to that gristmill ends up leaving him null and void there. Sure, he got it low, but doesn't matter unless you actually kill it. Floor is coming back, and Ziggy just has too much tier 2 for his economy. This actually might be a Floor victory. Yeah, looks like Ziggy taps out. Floor fighting back and putting a point on the board with a very fast tier 3. All right, let's hop into match number 4 here. As things are starting to heat up and we've got a series on our hand. In the bottom left, we've got Mr. Ziggy. And up on the right, Delthius. Man, this is another, like, this almost looks like one of our custom maps for, like, the Viashul Qualnez tournament or something. It's almost symmetrical, you know? Right down the middle here. I mean, I guess I like it a little bit better for Floor, but not enough to really matter. I would honestly say this is an even map. The only reason I say I like it a bit better for Floor is the low ground here for Ziggy. Can be a bit rough in the early game, but I imagine Ziggy is going to secure this high ground pretty quickly and get up and running up here. And if we actually see Ziggy build a Fox, you know, there's some really nice spots for the Fox to come up here and poke down units. So this double high ground in the middle, in my opinion, seems to favor Ziggy a little bit. 1, because the Fox, and 2, because of ramping. You know, even though it looks like there's a ramp over here, these trees get in the way, and Floor actually can't get up onto this high ground right here without going all the way around. So yeah, let's see what ends up happening in this game. A little bit of Squizzard coming out from Ziggy. So far, nothing crazy just yet. I like the 3 tier 1 before a tier 2 or a mill on a map like this. I mean, the rush distance is short enough where you do got to be careful. There's that expansion from Ziggy. I'm sure Floor will follow suit here shortly. 6 lizards, 6 squirrels, though, is a nice little attack force. Ziggy already trying to utilize this high ground, but needs to be careful. It doesn't actually have the numbers just yet to really commit to that position. It's a shame there's no balloon this time around, because a balloon on this high ground would be so devastating. Alright, Ziggy needs to be careful here. We're kind of caught in a tier 1 chicken. You know, if either side commits to a tier 2 and the other one just keeps building lizards or something, there's a huge risk of just getting run over. A modest, humble single farm on these expansions. And I like this game so far. Lots of tension. There's that chameleon from Floor. And Ziggy is going to try to abuse this high ground. I think he's still deciding whether or not he really, really wants to commit to it. And this is difficult for Floor. He's actually got to move his commander all the way around to even get vision up here. And Ziggy's going to abandon this high ground and just run right in. He feels like he already got the trades that he needed, and I think he's right. He's definitely going to get a war in here. But honestly, I think he can just stick to this high ground. Like, I think the mill is in range. That Warren definitely is. And Floor suffering some losses there, however, does get the chameleons up, and chameleons are pretty good against tier 1 in these kinds of positions. I think Floor really wants to get that second chameleon up and running before he gets too cocky, but gonna go ahead and engage. A single chameleon gets targeted down pretty quickly. It looks like Ziggy is gonna win this engagement as well. Ziggy in a fantastic position to just win the game outright. Needs to be careful not to overextend. Floor selling off that one Warren, knowing it was not very long for this world regardless. And that's already 2 Warrens that Ziggy has picked off, and this is just too much compounding damage. That Cam comes in, gets doofed upon immediately. I think Floor was considering tapping out a second ago there. But yeah, with the pig going down as well, Ziggy with the aggression and abusing this high ground on the map a little bit. Looks like he's going to take this game. Floor's hanging out for now, does have a cam, but it is just going to die. It does not have the support that it needs to really get the job done. And that should be that. A nice victory here for Team Fox. It looks like Floor might have rage quit Alt F4. Nope, okay. He was just hanging out for a minute. There we go. Ziggy takes the series. So far, so good for Team Fox. Who do we want to get into next? I think Kalaru versus James would be good. Let me get this set up. And Claro does enjoy a 1-point lead going into this. James at the big ol' 8-16 on the weight. And again, give me another very, very quick break and we will hop into this series. Okay, I am back. The overlay looks correct. Everything looks good. Alright, let's get into it. Match number 1 here. And over in the bottom left, we've got Kalaru. Opponent to the right, James. Ooh, Kalaru. Lizard, Ferret, Turret. Old school Fox builds here. Really interested to see how this plays out. James, of course, with that cam balloon. I think pretty par for the course for King James. He'll always be King James in my mind. 3 bases here for James. 3 bases for Kalaru. Maybe this 4th as well. Overall, you can split hairs on this map, but I feel like it's pretty even. It's actually interesting. No squirrels at all from Kalaru. He wanted to squeeze in that additional tier 2 instead. Just relying on the lizards, really hoping the opponent doesn't have things like toads and barbed wire. And attacking into James' main is like almost impossible. Like, look at this ramping. You know, sieging the middle base would be fine. Kalaru doesn't have any units to grant him high ground vision. You know, no flyers. Really quick mill out of James. You can kind of get away with that sort of thing without moles, since the moles are banned. Oh yeah, I do have to change colors. Thank you. Bam. Oh, we've got they didn't do the lobby right, actually. So hang on. This is actually Kalaru over here. And this is James. Let me get my little disclaimer up there. There we go. Yeah, this overlay only works in one position. Like, we need the attackers on the left side. But, it's all good. Doggo in the chat, what's going on, man? Been a while since I've seen old Doggo. We are in the end of another one of the gentlemen's crazy tournaments here. Kalaru is attacking James to try to earn some more points for Team Fox. And so far, nothing crazy yet. I think Kalaru, you know, tried coming in with a few lizards. There was a bit of a skirmish. It doesn't look like too much happened. And Kalaru gonna continue to poke in here, but this really isn't where you want to be with lizards. You know, there's only one spot to really come in. Ideally, you want to keep your opponent on their toes. You know, am I gonna come in over here? Am I gonna come in over there? But Kalaru, you know, trying to make some lemonade out of the limes that he has. Yeah, Doggo, I'm glad to see you, man. Dude, Doggo is OG, man. I was casting Doggo games back in like 2017. What was it? Wasn't it you and Dutch Defender? Am I remembering that right? Wasn't it a big like 2v2 tournament, clash of comrades? I want to say like Doggo and Dutch was one of the teams that did really well. Both players getting that tier 3 up and running. James has not scouted the Fox yet, but he's going to come in, try to take a look. Does actually see it. Kalaru has scouted the boar. So both players know what's up. And this is pretty exciting. You know, we've got a relatively quick second saturation macro game. Kalaru needs to get those in, and he does. So these kind of matches are always really fun to me. Unless one player just obviously clobbers the opponent. Actually, this Fox block for Kalaru is really rough. He needs to go home and sell something and get that Fox building immediately, or the board is going to be out significantly faster. And James working on that third base. Yeah, dude. I can't believe I remember that. I'm typically like horrible for remembering things like that. It was super hype. Yeah, Dutch Defender and Doggo versus Chip and Arbuz in the finals. And Chip and Arbuz ended up winning. Dude, Chip and Arbuz, they're not super active anymore, but if we advertise like a 2v2 tournament or something, they'll come out of the woodworks and cream the opponents. James getting these balloons up. Let's take a closer look at the tier 2 here. Kalaru is actually really light on tier 1. I think he is going to need like a turret wall or something like that. And the reason he's so light on the tier 1, of course, is because the boar, but James actually sold the boar. Oh, this is huge. Sorry. Oh, the Fox goes down immediately too. Kalaru, no. Oh, this is horrible for Kalaru. That was really smart from James. He sold off the boar and just drilled down a bunch of tier 1, got that third base economy up and running, and just absolutely devastated in that attack. And now he's in a fantastic position to push in here and get some more damage done. And I think that's just game for James, you know. Like, Kalaru did have the Fox up, but unfortunately it kind of derped in there and died. And I think part of that was probably due to some of this ramping here. I think Kalaru probably thought the Fox would maybe rally up more like this way, but the way that it was rallied was like around, you know what I mean? Because there's no ramp here, and that made the Fox just kind of run right into the middle of everything. But let's see, man. Kalaru's got a dream. He's trying to get that the Fox back up, but the problem here is that James, you know, these lizards from James, you know, basically deal with everything Kalaru's throwing out there. And Kalaru really doesn't need these snakes a whole lot at this point. I think he just needs more tier 1. Yeah, he sells off the snakes. Actually wants to try to get some ferrets up and running. sells those off, though. Yeah, I think he just needs more tier 1, and he's starting to come to that same conclusion. But this is phenomenal for James. It's basically GG at this point. We'll see if Kalaru can pull a rabbit out of the hat here, though. He does have the Fox on the way. And maybe if he can get the third base up and running, hide behind some turrets, and get a lot of value out of this Fox, he can come back and make something happen. But again, he's got to be careful. This ramping on this map is very awkward. All it takes is one stack of poison, pretty much, on the Fox, and other units can finish it off. Alright, let's see if Kalaru can make something happen. He really needs to be getting some Fox shots off in between these big engagements, but James is just not giving him the time of day to try to get that type of play done. And I think this is where Kalaru's just got to tap. Does Kalaru not know? No, Kalaru knows about the third base, and yeah, there's the poison on the Fox. That's a dead Fox. Oh, 1 HP, but yeah. And that's a dead Kalaru. And I got the score wrong again, man. I am off tonight. That should have been a 1-0 lead for Kalaru, but there we go. Now it's 1-1. I was going down memory lane too much, man. Seeing Doggo in chat. Okay, although it is 1-1, Kalaru started with a 1-point handicap. So we are actually on match number 2 here. And spawning over on the left side. Subbing in mines this time. We've got Kalaru. And his opponent to the right, James. King James. Big fat gristmill heavy map here. And I kind of like this late game. See, the thing is Falcons are banned, right? And Falcons are one of the way that Fox players can really get into the late game, because the Fox doesn't scale as well as really any of the other tier 3s. When we talk about big late game army compositions, it's hard to say Fox isn't good in the late game. I think that's incorrect, because the Fox actually has a lot of utility in the late game if you're constantly getting in there poking and prodding and getting value, but in the big engagement itself, not going to get as much direct DPS done. But James has got the chameleons, he's got the balloons. These things scale really nicely into the late game. And no Falcons, in my opinion, hurts Fox a lot. For one, Fox kind of relies on those Falcons as a nice way to get into the late game. Oh wait, Kalaru trying to be sneaky here, sells off the farms and gonna build into an attack. Actually getting some early pigeons. Lizards are not that great on defense, but James scouted this out, and the map is large enough. I really don't see this working, unfortunately, for Kalaru here. But another reason the Falcon ban is rough for Fox is that Fox is hard counter Falcons, right? They one-shot them. So that's like easy prey. Ooh, these pigeons gonna make a difference. This early attack is not working for Kalaru, and it's gonna put him very far behind. He's 2 farms behind here. And really, I think he even traded ineffectively. Kalaru getting caught up on those farms there. Meanwhile, James taking that second base. So we're going to get into a mid-game. James has a nice lead, though, and I love what James is doing with this. I would actually love to see him not throw down like any farms. Just a little bit more tier 1. And push in with the chameleons. Ooh, getting snakes. That's kind of an interesting pick. I wouldn't have expected that. I think I would have preferred double chameleon if he was going to go for double tier 2. But I think, honestly, with just the single cam and a lot of tier 1 backing it up, he could probably really push the issue onto Kalaru. But Kalaru's going for ferrets. And again, Kalaru's got a lot of these utility units here. He's got the ferrets, he's got the pigeons, but he doesn't have a lot of meat. We need some meat here. He's got the cauliflower, he's got the broccoli. But where's the steak? Meanwhile, James is sitting on a double Big Mac. Alright, that's enough food analogies. I'm just hungry. I'm hungry, you guys. Alright, Kalaro needs to make some magic happen with these ferrets. The pigeons are a nice touch vicariously because snakes happen to come out, right? So maybe that can, if the ferret gets a stack of poison, you know, the pigeons can help deal with that. But the pigeons cannot heal the poison on buildings. So that is one dead gristmill there. And that is a very large nail into Kalaru's coffin. However, he only committed one farm onto it, but still, I mean, he's just miles behind in economy now. James also been taking the better engagements. And James is just going to try to push in for the win here. One ferret's going down. Yeah, I think this is just going to be a nice, quick, clean victory for James. As Kalaru is going to be forced to tap momentarily. He's going to push this back, but he's just so far behind. There it is. A nice, quick, clean win from James. And Team Fox, give your energy to Kalaru. I put the wrong point on the board. I noticed. We really need some additional points, and James sitting with that big fat weight. This would be a huge pickup here for Team Fox. Let's see what happens in game number 3. Spawning on the bottom, we've got Kalaru bringing in the toads this time. And up top, James. Alright, I like this from Kalaru. He's getting serious, man. No more ferrets. No more mines. No more turrets. None of these fun, but, you know, not necessarily the strongest unit in the meta kind of thing. Even dropping down on the skunks as well. Really similar army comps here, to be honest. You know, 4 out of the 6 units are the same. This map looks okay for Kalaru. I think I like it better for James. Trying to get to this third base for Kalaru is a little bit awkward. He does have this little chute here in the back, which I didn't notice up front, but this is actually blocked off. You know, that little well, I guess? Is that a well? So Kalaru would have to walk all the way around that way, or he can come in this way. Look at James getting ready to throw down moles, and he's like, oh wait, they're banned. But meanwhile, James, you know, easy access to bases. He can even take this 4th over in the 9 o'clock position. But I think this map is fine still. You know, 9 times out of 10, games come down to 2 bases. Kalaru's got a nice, beautiful natural here. And he does have the capability to expand into that 3rd if the time comes. And this 4th base probably won't matter. In most games, we don't see it come to that. Snakes first from Kalaru. Hoping to get out ahead of his enemy, who he assumes will probably build camps first. And the snakes are weak to lizards, but Kalaru does have toads. He can sprinkle in a few of those to try to deal with the lizards. Yeah, this lizard cam army coming out from James. Already an expansion from James as well. Kalaru, no expansion just yet, but he probably will expand after the scout. He hasn't seen the second base from James, but could probably assume it's there. Really surprised no second base out of Kalaru just yet. Unless he really thinks James doesn't have one, but he hasn't been checking the mill positions. Gotta build into some toads. There's that second base. Okay, so James is a little bit ahead on the pig. But it's only 1. You know, it's nothing crazy yet. Kalaru could easily just throw down double farm here and be back into it. but Claro thinks he's got the composition here to give James a hard time. He knows James is on Lizard Cam. Looking for some good Toad connections. Get some pretty decent connects there. The cams are still punching through, though. One of them is going to fall. Will the other one go down? It's poisoned, but I think it's barely going to live. James taking... Oh, no, it does die. Okay. That's actually huge. So James takes a favorable engagement. And I think Clara's just leaning on these pigeons a little bit too much, man. I like sprinkling in pigeons later on, but I feel like maybe it's just too early, you know? Pigeons are nice when you have a big army, but when it's like every tier 1 counts, you know, you really need those 3 squirrels over the 3 pigeons. Clara getting those farms up and running, though. James did take a nice first engagement, but keep in mind they did trade tier 2. Clara actually sold out of the snakes. Yeah, I'm a little surprised as well, Doggo. I thought those Toad connections were pretty decent. But the army values are still pretty close. Like, keep in mind 120 food of that is in that balloon. And Clara's playing the macro game here. He's hoping he can get ahead of James in the farms. Takes his mill, but James hears it immediately. And comes in. Ooh, is actually just going to run around. And Clara does not see this. This is going to be devastating. Oh my god. This is just game. This is too much damage. Alright, well, not as much damage as I thought. One of those tier 2 Warrens does stay up, and this is a better army comp coming out of Calaro here, you know, getting some cams going. Oh man, just keeping those 2 lizards there to poke down this mill. Great play. That mill will be falling. Yeah, that backstab from James was so good. Claro hasn't committed to a second tier 2 Warren yet. Even not into the Toads anymore, and the Toads would actually be great here. Toads do really well against chameleons. Claro desperately trying to get a 3rd base up and running. Yeah, I'd love to see like 6 Toads, you know, try to slam them into the chameleons. Ooh, 4 cams here, some snakes on the way too. Clara's gonna go for it. He doesn't want this balloon to get up and running, but he engages already underneath the balloon, and James just smashes through, and Clara's gonna tap. James with a successful defense. Stopping us Fox players from getting any more points here. Nicely played. Alright, we've got one last match for the night. Between Mishi and Big Pimpintosh here. Mishi will probably be red. Tosh will probably be yellow. Those are my guesses. I get the weight for Tosh, 1376. That is quite a lot. Okay. Here is the final match of the night. The icing on the cake here. Mishi versus Tosh. This should be a phenomenal series. And let's see what happens. Alright, spawning at the bottom, we've got Big Pimpintosh. And his opponent to the top left, Mishi. With the double defense, with the arty. Let's go, bro. Let's go. Let's see what happens. Only the skunk's in the tier 2. If you're just going to take one tier 2, I think the skunk is a good choice. Doesn't have a whole lot he can do against the badger outside of his own fox. Maybe a whole lot of lizards. Meanwhile, Tosh just has a solid tryhard deck. You know, Squizzard, Cam, Snake, Badger. Gotta have those pigeons in there, of course, to synergize with the badger. But I think they're even stronger in the specific meta of this tournament. It's a pretty safe assumption that your opponent probably has snakes. This is a nice map for Tosh. He's got 5 bases pretty easily. There's this little back alleyway into Tosh's base that Mishi has scouted. He does have lizards, so maybe he can take advantage of that. And Mishi's not completely screwed on this map either. He's got 3 bases right here. He's got this 12 o'clock. So although the mills do favor Tosh, I still think it's kind of an even map. You know, Mishi's got plenty of resources available to him. It's very rare, although we have seen it happen. I think in Araloo versus the Gentleman in the TnT Championship Finals, I think I was saying that once in one map where it's like, alright, you know, this one extra mill on Gentleman's side of the map, and it did actually come down to that, but Araloo still ended up winning anyways. Quick economic opening for Mishi. I think that's a smart play given the size and relative awkwardness of this map. And, you know, with this gristmill up here, you know, Mishi actually has some nice area to throw down some aggressive artillery if he can find the perfect moment to do so. Here comes Tosh with the sneaky lizard attack. Mishi is not at home. There's a lot of building pigs that are very, very vulnerable to this. Mishi is still not home. Tosh is for sure going to get 1. He's going to come in here for 2, maybe even get 3. And this is just so much damage, even going for 4. It doesn't get 4. But 3 pigs for 6 lizards. I'll take that trade any day of the week. Mishi going to try to counterattack, but these squirrels are so slow and this map is so big. By the time he gets over here, Tosh will probably have enough. Well, maybe Mishi actually ends up getting a Warren here. Or an effective trade. Yeah, this is actually not bad for Mishi. I think I overestimated how quickly Tier 1 builds. You know, this counterattack for Mishi really punishing Tosh for hard committing into that economic damage. So, Mishi actually returns the favor. And then some, getting 2 Warrens and 2 pigs. So, point, check, serve, Mishi. Floating a ton of money from that attack, though. Gotta come home, just straight up build the fox. Let's go, Mishi. I'm loving it. And both players just skyrocketing up to 8 farms on the second base. Now, keep in mind, a couple of these pigs did go down on the main for Tosh. Tosh comes in for the scout, but Mishi does sell off that fox and goes for the skunk instead. Mishi is going to see all the economy, but no committed Warrens just yet. Let's see if Tosh tries to sell anything right after Mishi leaves. No, not really. Just building a lot of lizards. Getting a lot of Tier 1. Double skunk from Mishi, and I love double skunk because single skunk kind of gets ran over by lizards, but once you have 4 skunks out, man, I mean, they just get so much gas everywhere. It's even tough for lizards, and Tosh going for a bit of a sneaky play here, trying to take a hidden base up top. Meanwhile, Mishi getting into that fox. And this match is already getting very, very rich. These guys are top 1%ers. We need to go protest about how much food Tosh has. And here's that badger from Tosh. This fox is significantly ahead of it. But the fox isn't really a crash through your face immediately kind of Tier 3. So I think this badger will be out in a reasonable time as long as it is not blocked. Tosh coming in for another sneaky attack, but Mishi's got his units in a decent position to hold this off. However, these building farms are very vulnerable. Tosh, at the very least, is going to come in and snag 1, but this is a fully saturated third base from Tosh, or from Mishi, rather. So very, very greedy play. The fox is actually blocked here, but Mishi's got such a large income, it should be starting up soon. Actually, it's being blocked for a pretty significant amount of time since Mishi built those turrets, but finally it is going to get up and running here. So really the badger is now going to be out faster than the fox. However, it's not going to matter too much. They're both going to be pretty comparable in when they actually start getting in the field and making a difference. What I'm really worried about for Tosh here is this third base not being saturated. He realizes that, though, gets up there and gets that taken care of. And here's that artillery cannon from Mishi. Tosh has not seen it. And it's very important to scout artillery. They do take a long time to build, but they don't take forever. What do they take, like a minute or something? I don't know it off the top of my head. Maybe it's like 50 seconds, like a tier 3. With these turrets to help, and now Mishi is gonna scout. Oh no, he doesn't! Because Tosh is on the move with this Badger. Can he actually break through, though? Mishi's got the Fox here. There's so much defense. Like, yeah, this turret will... I mean, this mill will go down. But the mill has already kind of served its purpose of expanding the territory for Mishi to put down some threatening structures. Ooh, the Fox getting so low. 3 HP. Tosh trying to rail through, but doesn't quite have enough just yet. He's going to have to retreat for now. This Fox needs some territory, though it is not healing. Good micro on the Fox so far, just keeping it back. Both players just trying to micro their own tier 3, keep them alive. And all these pigeons are doing a good job just taking the shots from this Fox here. Did the Arty Cannon get destroyed? I guess so. I don't imagine Mishi would have sold it. And Tosh is starting to break through. That Badger's getting so deep, though. Down to 3 HP. Oh my god, is it actually going to live? Damn, I thought the Fox was going to for sure finish it off, but Tosh still rampaging forward. He's got a lot of pigeons here to support this. His army is primarily tier 1, so it's reinforcing very, very quickly. And this Fox continuing to try to deal with this Badger. But Tosh is getting more and more ground here, starting to get to this juicy third base. That fourth base didn't really matter. Mishi didn't mind if it went down. But now Tosh is threatening the Warrens. He's threatening the actual farming base. You know, Mishi's got to hold his ground here. And this is the part that can get painful for Tosh. The retreat, the regroup. This is where the Fox gets to shine and get those shots in between the direct engagements. These skunks here from Mishi really helping to clear out this tier 1. Make it to where majority of the time, you know, Tosh is really just sitting on the Badger and the pigeons. There are still just so many pigeons here. This fight just seems like it's gonna go on forever. This Badger just continues to get very low, but Tosh with the good micro, you know, pulling it back right at the last moment. And no snakes here for Mishi to really make this easier on himself. Mishi coming forward though, getting in continuous shots. This is really how you got to play the Fox. You know, you want to basically have this thing shooting on cooldown as often as you can. And Mishi is going to reclaim this fourth base position. Now, Mishi never scouted that north base, so you might think he's farther ahead than he is, but at this phase, you got to realize he's got another base somewhere, you know. That base could be over here, and Mishi's actually got all these turrets. He's going to sell down a couple of them. It's kind of funny, right at the same time, Tosh was kind of scratching his head thinking, oh, maybe I can get in from that direction. But this is where the map is going to start being very favored for Tosh. You know, Mishi actually needed this base up here as a mining base. And Tosh was able to sneakily come up and drain most of it dry. Mishi is going to come up there with the Fox. I think I would rather prefer Mishi just send the lizards up there. Oh, that Badger getting so low, but it is going to be brought back in time to stay alive. Tosh trying to take this fight majorly outside of the defense. Another artillery cannon from Mishi is almost up. But, you know, Tosh taking that 12 o'clock is actually really brilliant at this phase because, you know, if Mishi can't break through now, which it looks like he actually might, yeah, this Badger's got nothing left to help defend. Mishi gets the target fire on it. Tosh is going to have to tap. Very, very close back and forth map. But Mishi manages to push through. And that is kind of hilarious because if Mishi didn't end the game soon, that would have been checkmate, you know. Tosh already sucked up his fourth base. Alright, game number 2. Let's get it going. Spawning in the bottom left, we've got Mishi. His opponent to the right. Big Pimp and Tosh. Dude, that Badger micro was really good, Tosh. So good. And I think you had Mishi like in a stranglehold from sucking up his 4th base in the 12 o'clock. You know, if Mishi didn't break through right then and there and was in a position where it's like, all right, now I need a 4th base, he would have been in a very tough position. So let's see how this one plays out. This map is quite Tosh favored. Mishi definitely in the driver's seat here to get something done. You know, we got to figure out a 1 or 2 base play to make it happen. And Tosh can just hang out, macro up, and just play the defensive game. So this is going to be really interesting. And, I mean, really, Tosh couldn't ask for better map gen here. I was going to say maybe Mishi can make some Lizard magic happen or Fox Harass magic happen going through that way. But if you look at the mini-map, there's actually no entrance there. There's only one entrance into all 4 of these bases for Tosh, so. You can get ahead of yourself, though, in overanalyzing these maps earlier on. You know, Mishi does have that 2nd base. But still, I think both these players, you know, Mishi's the kind of player that wants to macro up and will pivot if he needs to, right? And Tosh, very good player as well, is going to come in and get a full scout. Is gonna say, I feel like Tosh is quite versatile play. You know, he likes to play a lot of varieties of styles and army compositions. But Tosh knows how to read the opponent, and Tosh is perfectly fine saying, all right, man, you want to play macro game? We can play macro. And we're going to see these 2nd bases just get fully saturated up on the back of very, very few units. Tosh even being more greedy than Mishi here. Selling off the Warrens. Oh, and Mishi, yeah, realizing the same, sells his Warrens, rebuilds them. And now both players are up to 2nd base full saturation before 2 minutes and 30 seconds into the game. Tosh did notice the sell. Was thinking about bringing the squirrels over, but decides against it. Doesn't want to risk getting behind on a botched push. And there's the Badger. Alright, I love it. Mishi was hoping for another base over here, but there's nothing, man. 2 bases against 4. Mishi has got to just make this happen very, very quickly. And Tosh realizes that he's been blessed by RNGs this year. Already getting into that 3rd base. And maybe this Badger and the 3rd base from Tosh will end up being too greedy, and Mishi can push in with a lot of Tier 1. I mean, Tosh is just so greedy right now. Tier 3, double Tier 2, 3rd base. But Mishi really hasn't scouted. You know, he hasn't got in to see what was going on for quite some time. Doesn't know about the Tier 2, doesn't know about the Tier 3. Getting his Fox, though. Starting to hunker down a little bit. I don't think this is going to work. You know, if Tosh realizes that Mishi wants to turtle behind some turrets and maybe an arty, Tosh can say, all right, that's fine. I'll just go up to 4 bases. So I'm getting really, really worried for Mishi here. Yeah, I think you got to place this artillery cannon like super aggressively, and just use that to. I would have even placed it 1 tile further. I like this for Mishi. He's got a really nice fallback point. Double artillery. But again, if Tosh starts committing to this base rather than this one, and doesn't really care if that front mill goes down. You know, these artillery cannon aren't going to help defend and threaten the push beyond. And Mishi's got so much money in defense. Tosh is going to try him right here, right now. The Fox is not ready. The artillery is not ready. Tosh is going to try to break through. Here's the Fox, finally. It should actually finish this Badger. No, it's very, very low. And I am perplexed a little bit here. I'm curious how much this defense will really help Mishi on this attack. You know, maybe it will. I think maybe Mishi is thinking, you know what, if I can breach If I can breach the front lines of Tosh's base, and then maybe sell off the defense for a whole bunch of tier 1, and then leverage that to continue pushing in. But this is too much defense, I think, because Tosh does not have to attack. And this defense is only going to help Mishi push this first base, which Tosh doesn't even really need. So far, some decent trades. Lots of skunk gas going down. All this artillery. Killing that Badger is paramount. And Mishi does get the job done. He's going to push in now. And these double artillery cannon really helped Mishi shove in. Now, is the game just over if Mishi manages to get up on this high ground? I think it might be. Maybe I underestimated the impact of Tosh losing this positioning here. Because all that defense is going to help Mishi get deeper into the base. But maybe the thought process is, well, I don't really need to get deeper in, right? Like, if I can just get him right here, that's checkmate anyways. Mishi's got to keep this pressure on, though. I would love the sell of at least these turrets and throw down some lizards. You know, he's building these artillery right as close as heck and possible. Double Fox here. Mishi, you are a madman. Mishi's got to be careful, though. He knows about the snakes. Ooh, good pick off with the Fox. That snake got a little bit low from some artillery shells. Needs to be careful of this commander, too. Doesn't want to get snake poison on that. Tosh trying to push in, but I don't think this is correct. This is a misstep here from Tosh. There is no way you are breaking through that much defense, and I think that's just game. Nicely done. Yeah, I think in my analysis, I underestimated how important that base was from Tosh, and Mishi just kind of figured out, hey, if I can take that base down, you know, start gaining that territory, I've peeled the onion. Alright, Mishi up 2-0. Let's see if it's going to be a clean sweep or if Tosh can bring it back. 3 games in a row, hopping into match number 3 here. So in the bottom left, needing 3 wins in a row, we've got Big Pimpatosh, and over on the right, 1 win to claim victory and all those juicy points for the Fox, Mishi. This is very, very important for the Fox. I feel like if Tosh loses this, you know, they're still fine. Like, Badger's got such a strong lead. This is very important, though, for Team Fox. If Mishi wins this, that might give us enough points to really solidify position number 3. Which is all we need. I mean, maybe, I don't know the math well enough. You know, maybe position 2 is up for grabs. But really what I think players and teams are fighting for as week 4 is coming to a close here is that 3rd place position. Because the gap between the Badgers and everyone else is so far that it's going to be teams number 2 and 3 fighting it out in the semifinals to see who goes to the finals. Mishi with the same composition here. Tosh thinking, hey man, I like that Artie. I think I want some of that. Going Artie Balloon. So double defense from both players. Tosh with the sneaky base at the 9 o'clock position. Meanwhile, Mishi wants to go 8 farm tier 2 and builds a turret to help leverage that. Pretty interesting. I wonder what his plan is. Is he going to try to hit a sharp timing? You know, it's what, 40 seconds for tier 1. Uh-oh, Mishi. Is he alt-tab? Double skunk. So 60 seconds to build tier 2 and 40 seconds to build tier 1. Right. So maybe he can line it up to where, like, right when this double skunk is done, he'll have a decent amount of squirrel and pigeon finished up and ready to roll. But he needs to start building that tier 1 soon if that's his plan. And I'd imagine double skunk, triple skunk. What is Mishi doing? Now keep in mind, Mishi does have a 2-point lead right now, so he can do really whatever he wants this game. He can try to dunk on Tosh a little bit or try some weird stuff. He can lose a map or two and still be fine. And maybe make Tosh freak out a little bit going into the next match, you know? Like, hey, I mean, Mishi's not necessarily just doing the same thing every game. I gotta really watch out for it. And Tosh is kind of looking at this like, what the hell is going on here? And I think his response is great, you know, just building up a bunch of farms, getting this balloon. Balloon's going to be great no matter what tier 2 that is. And here's the 5 skunks. 5 skunks at the 3-minute mark. I wonder if Mishi is going to try to build, like, a fast artillery? Are going to try to use the skunks to defend it? You know, because how do you deal with the artillery before it's built? You rush it with a bunch of tier 1, maybe? Oh, 6 skunks is a crazy army composition, especially this early on. I mean, they're very tanky. You know, even lizards aren't good against it at this point, because there's just so much gas everywhere. And Mishi's just starting to slam through. Very aggressive strategy here. Keep in mind, Tosh does have a tremendous economic lead, and Tosh going for a Badger. I think that might be wishful thinking. You know, Mishi is going to scout it, but that Badger is like a minute 40 away, which might as well be an hour 40 in tooth and tail time. But what else can Tosh really do, to be fair? You know, he doesn't have tier 2 outside of ferrets. You know, building more and more tier 1 isn't really going to be helpful against 6 skunks. And I think this might just be it. You know, Mishi with the wonky build here, kind of out of left field. And to be honest, I think part of this issue is Tosh's deck. You know, Tosh has also kind of got a risky deck composition here. He doesn't have a whole lot of meat in this composition, really relying on lizards to get the job done. But this massive amount of skunks plus pigeon, you know, these lizards are pretty much null and void. So I think if maybe Tosh had, you know, more of a standard deck, he probably could have come up with something to deal with this. But it was kind of a stars align situation for Mishi. It's a kind of out of a left field opening build, while Tosh is playing a little bit of a crazy deck, you know, that doesn't have things like chameleons and snakes and other various answers to deal with this handily. So that is it, folks. It looks like Mishi is gonna take it 3-0. Well, he's still got all his skunks alive. Are you still gonna stream, Woody? I see you're live still. I can throw you that raid. That old raideroni. Not sure if he's watching anymore. This looks to be over. So we had some really cool matches tonight. Good night for Fox overall. That's exciting for me and my Fox teammates. Maybe we will end up in that 2nd or 3rd place position and get to duke it out in the semifinals or the finals coming up soon. But that is it, everybody. Nice 3-0 victory here for Mishi. That is right, isn't it? I don't know why. For a moment I was thinking... Yeah, these are dummy replays. Okay. I don't know why in my head I was like, did Tosh win the first game? But no, that's it, guys. That's it for the stream. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We actually got through a lot pretty quick tonight, surprisingly. 4 best-of-5 sets in under 2 hours, so there you go. And let's go ahead. If you are in the tournament and you still need to play some matches... Oh, Tosh is hosting me. What am I thinking? For some reason, it showed him live over there, so... Alright, anyways, guys. It was fun. I appreciate everybody tuning in. If you still have matches to play, please get those done ASAP. So, gentleman is not stressing over the weekend. And... we will see y'all next time. Take care, everybody.